Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the Indie Plug. Today I'm joined by lead singer Elliot and lead guitarist Chris from the Manchester-based band The Cabs. How are you guys?
Oh, very good. Good.
Very good, yeah.
A lot better now we can get back in the band room.
Good stuff. Are you guys living together?
I don't know,
No, we're not living together. But he's in my bubble, which is why he's sat so close to me.
Yeah. Didn't really want to do this in a mask, to be honest.
Fair enough. Before we get into the music, how's it going in and around Manchester? Not a bad place to spend lockdown, right?
He's all right. There was a lot of places we could get. Like you got to Castlefield Bowl a couple of times, didn't you? There's a lot like open fields and open spaces, but
yeah, when it started opening up again and the weather was pretty good, it's not a bad place to be, but it's fucking counting on the weather, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the first few weeks when it was scared, I didn't want to leave the house. That was just sitting in the garden. I mean, that was probably the best weather. I think as soon as we could start getting out, it started pissing down.
I think this is the only place we wanted to be, though, and it was always fucking closed.
Yeah. So, it's a good place to be outside of lockdown. But I think, during lockdown, it was the same as everyone else. Not a lot going on.
Not quite as sunny as down here in Oxfordshire.
Has it been sunny down there?
Yeah, well, it's sunny today, yeah.
Rain tea.
So yeah, rather you down there than me, mate.
Not only is it a good place in terms of overall lifestyle, but also for music lovers. Being one of the biggest producers of rock music in history of the UK, Manchester's seen many big acts come through over the years. What are some of your earliest music memories from where you grew up?
I think, well, mine is probably, if we're talking first gigs, I think it was for my, 14th birthday. I got tickets to see Noel Gallagher in Sheffield.
Really?
Mum and Dad drove me down and all that. Mum dragged me out and we stood right at the front. And there was like a big mosh pit going on.
It's better than mine.
And she started crying and dragged me out of it.
Oh,
no, that was good. Reverend and the Makers supporting as well. So I'll try and just follow the Manchester bands wherever they go, even though they're Sheffield. But no, as in earliest music memories, it was just sort of always Oasis. I remember when I first started listening to music, I won an iPod Shuffle in my IT class. And I just put every single Oasis album on there, and fucking that was it. And I'd only ever listened to music that was from Manchester, so I had Spiral Carpets, Happy Mondays, and I just branched off from there. But Manchester's the best place to be, I think. I don't know if anyone can argue with that.
I'm not from Manchester.
Chumbawamba.
Chumbawambas, yeah. Chumbawambas are my idols when I was little.
What's that Chumbawamba?
I get knocked down by tough thumping. Mine was a little bit different. I don't think I went to what I would call a proper gig until I was like 18 and 19.
In the 1930s.
In the 1930s, yeah. No, when I was 17, I went to Bennet Extreme Festival with one of my best mates. But one of my earliest ones that I remember was my grandma and granddad taking me to see the Searchers, which are like a mashup of the Beatles and the Beach Boys.
What, is that in like a pub or something?
No, it was in like Burnley Town Hall.
Oh,
it was
all
pretty sick. Yeah, it was
strawberries and cream and all that.
I think I'd seen like amateur wrestling there at some point as well. What else did we? I think I went to go and see. What's the Irish band called? Not U2. Not Westlife. No, not Mumford and Sons.
Boyzone.
No, the Scripts. No, the Scripts. Yeah, it's in the Scripts at MEN. With mum and my partner Phil and his two kids, and that was all right.
So I've got the better earlier memories.
Yeah, he's got the better earlier memories. But we didn't realise until maybe a couple of months ago. We both went to, before we'd even known each other. Who did we go and see?
A guy called
Gerald in South Nightclub, like 4 years ago. And then we've been to Castlefield Bowl to Richard Ashcroft.
Definitely crossed paths, I think, in the past.
Yeah, it was fate has brought us together further down the line.
Well, it seems like Elliot is the more Mancunian of the two of you. To name a few bands that have entered the Manchester music scene in more recent years, you've got the likes of 1975, although not my taste, Affix, Pale Waves, and perhaps most notably, The Blossoms. What are some Mancunian bands, past or present, that influence the Cabs?
I think
Manc
bands that influenced. So it's not the 1975.
It's not the 1975.
It's not Pale Wales either.
Pale Waves.
Pale Waves.
Pale Wales.
Did I say Pale Wales? Pale Waves.
Not Pale Waves.
Yeah, that's a tribute band.
Yeah, we could do that. But I really like Blossoms. And he fucking loves them as well.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say that their influences as such. I think there's maybe elephants. There's maybe elements of them more lyrically rather than musically. Like we don't have that electronic sound. I think
very 80s.
We're going to say this one now. We're going to say Oasis, but that's not. I think once we'd got that out the way, we wanted to venture off from that.
I don't think you can be I don't want to say we're up and coming, but I don't think you can be a small Manchester band and not have that, instant tie with Oasis or the Stone Roses or anything like that. I think our first single definitely sounds everyone was saying, it's Oasis, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But as you sort of keep going, like I like to think the songs we've got out now each sound have a little bit of a different sound.
Yeah.
But certainly I think my biggest influence when I'm writing or playing is Doves, Jimmy Goodwin and Doves, and Elbow and stuff like that as well. That's really sort of my bread and butter, innit?
Yeah. I think obviously not Manchester, but Kasabian have always been my favourite band.
Not the lead singer.
But he's, just since I was like 16, 17, I just loved it. The mix, the way they bring together like the dirty guitar and the riffs and like the groove and the electronic sound of it. That was like my two favourite. I've always loved guitars, but I started when I was like 17, 18, 19. I started like developing a light for not so much dance music, but the dance. It's like Stone Roses and like Begging You. That was one of my favourite tunes because it wasn't just it's fucking Stone Roses and there's fucking like loads of guitar on it and whatever. It's
just fucking nuts, that song, wasn't it?
Yeah. So yeah, Kasabian would be my biggest influence out of Manchester. But I think as for Manchester influences, we're sort of taking bits from places, but I think we're actively and maybe not so actively trying to avoid taking too many influences. I think a lot of people actively and not so actively try and do that. Everyone says the same thing. We don't want to just be compared to Oasis. So I don't think we have too many big influences in what we're doing right now anyway from Manchester.
I think you can think about it too much as well when you're writing or playing, as you say, you can be like, I really like this person, but if you focus on it too much, you try and sort of imitate instead of think of your own stuff. So you try and have that in your head, but don't let it influence what you do too much because it'll just be a carbon copy, won't it?
Yeah.
Well, I was just about to go away from the focus on the Manchester music scene. For our lockdown, you guys have created your own lockdown playlist for your viewers. You've got 5 in total, and they are songs and bands that obviously you guys love.
Yeah.
And you featured the likes of the Strokes, Doves, as you said, Elliot, you like, Arctic Monkeys, the Kinks, Jimi Hendrix, and the Beatles.
Mm-hmm.
Of all the musicians you listen to, I know you said, Chris, your favourite is Kasabian. Whether they influence your band or not, who is your favourite, Elliot?
It's my favourite. Sorry, it's favourite band of all time. So Elbow. It's got to be Elbow. I think Guy Garvey. I actually met him, bumped into him at a venue called Night and Day in Manchester, which you might have heard of. And what was it like? He took a picture of me and Guy.
Yeah.
And
is it Guy Garvey?
I've never been starstruck when I've met anyone, but that was like knees were knocking.
The twinkle in his eye was beautiful.
Yeah.
That love it.
But it's got to be Elbow. Never, in my mind, never wrote a bad song. It's all just beautiful lyrically and it's just poetic as anything. And he's the best songwriter to come from Manchester without a doubt. And I just think their music, it's a bit apart from him, but it's just amazing music. I can't describe how much I love it.
Yeah,
it's just so good. Every album is just surpasses the last, like the most commercially successful one that they did a few years ago. Even now, they're just still getting better and better and better. And I think that's the proper skill. When and I don't want to say anyone can write an album, but there's been so many people that have done a good song or a good album. Mm-hmm. But when you start doing 6 or 7, it's just crazy. I don't know how people do it. I hope we can.
Yeah.
On to the cab. From what I can tell, you formed your band in 2019. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Back end of late 2018. It was just sort of like a couple of practices here and there. But yeah, I would say 2019 was when we actually
I never wanted to do it.
Yeah.
I just did not want to. I had to. James, the guitarist, he had to always just drag me and say, "Just come to practice. Just come and sing." Because we used to go in the studio pissed, and we'd just mess around in there, me and him and a couple of other lads that aren't in this band. And then he was like, "Oh, I've actually met someone who's got the songs and wants to start going." And I never wanted to go.
Yeah,
I don't know why. I had to really be pushed into it.
It's an absolute chore trying to get it down.
But once I'd sort of bit, it's like, you can't. You're always chasing it, then, aren't you? Once you do it once, actually enjoy it.
Yeah.
That's quite interesting then, because I was just about to ask, did you guys, as individuals, always have a plan to start a band? So, Elliot, were you not that fussed about getting into a band at the start?
It wasn't fuss. I didn't know what I was going to get myself into. I still don't, in a way. But it was just like a fear of the unknown sort of thing. And I'm a lazy git as well, so I was just like, after work, just a long shift, can't be bothered doing it. But as I said, once I got that feeling what it's like to play with music with, a drummer, which I'd never done, or someone on bass and another guitarist, and then it just completely snowballed from there.
Starts all coming together, and it's
yeah. But I never knew Chris before I met him to play music with him in a studio in Salford.
Yeah.
So
we said this somewhere else before. Like we don't have that fairy tale background story where it's like, oh, we all lived on the same street as we're
skipping fields a week
together.
together.
And we all used to like dream of being in a band together. Like I think it's all just sort of come from everyone's love of music and I say naivety of wanting to be in a band and thought, we'll give it a go, and then it took off. When we first started the band, my brother was the drummer. I started it with him, and we went through. We had a different singer before Elliot came, but that was sort of like that was pretty short-lived.
Crap.
That was. We'll save that for another time, another podcast. And then James came along, and then there was another bass player as well, and then Michael came along, the bass player we've got now, and then Elliot came along, and the only change we've had now, or from when we started, like late 2018, start 2019, is I would say that the Cavs, actually, because we were called the Cavaliers at first. That was what the name was. I went through back in 25 names, but Cavaliers was the first name that we first gigged with, and we played one gig with my brother in the band, and then I think it was October 19th, we played our first gig as the Cavs, and that was when Arthur was in the band. He'd only been in the band, a month? I think there was maybe like a month and a half from my brother saying that he didn't want to be in the band anymore, to us finding Arthur, to us having our first gig as, like, we were called the Cavs, and we just shortened it.
I think the way it all went, you could see that everything sort of
start clicking,
yeah. It
was great having my brother in, because he was a sick drummer, but we knew, Arthur's rubbish, bring back Alex. Yeah. But it was not his kind of music. Me and my brother have always been into different kinds of music, but there was like a little crossover of where he knew what we were looking for. So I think as a helping started, we couldn't have asked for anyone better. But I think going forward, he realised it wasn't for him, and Arthur came and he just clicked straight away, didn't he? Mm. So it was good.
Funny old tale.
Yeah.
Well, it's great to see so many new bands bursting onto the scene, perhaps with the help of social media. Do you feel that it's easier than ever before to start your journey in the music industry?
Well, I don't think you can't do it anymore without social media. It's all totally changed. Like, I think it's really good for getting your name out there. And if you're good, because you have to be good at social media. You can't just have it, and you have to know how to use it. And we're still sort of learning that, and we were just about getting somewhere with it. But then once lockdown hits, there's only so much you can. You don't want to be posting crap every day, do you?
Yeah.
But I think it was probably better back in the day for someone. It sounds more fun anyway. If someone was, rifling through, looking for your record or something like that. But it's just not how it works anymore at all. But yeah, I think
it's been good for us meeting like Clint Boone. We did a gig supporting our mates Dirty Laces, and we met Clint Boone there, and then being able to message him sort of like off the cuff and get retweets off him and loads of followers from it. So it's I think social media has been massive for us in lockdown, because no one's had anything better to do other than like these virtual pub crawls and these listening parties, Tim's Twitter listening parties.
It's not been ours yet, though.
Yeah, we're hoping to get a Charlton's Tim's Twitter listening party after this.
We're not. That was a joke. It'd be pretty short, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it wouldn't be very long. No. But yeah, social media was massive for us there. I think we were just short of 700 listeners on Spotify. I think we've gone from about 200, just short of 200. We gained about 500 just through Twitter polls, Twitter listening parties. We were lucky that we had our most recent single come out as well at the start of lockdown. That was all done and ready to go. So I think had that not have been there ready to go, then it'd have been, again, it'd still been all right. Still had stuff there, but social media's
it's just an essential. Big. It's just a total essential. You have to use it, and if you don't, no one's gonna have a fucking clue. Who you are.
It is using it right though. I think we're still trying to find our feet in tweeting the right stuff, tweeting often enough, tweeting relevant stuff. But at the minute, obviously, it's hard because
there's nothing to tweet about.
No, there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes and stuff we're working on, and there's a lot of like rescheduling, reorganising gigs that we had coming up and music that we had going on just as lockdown was sort of coming round. There's a lot of work in process. I think once we've got it all sorted, social media is going to fucking boom.
Going to boom, yeah.
Yeah. It's going to Clint boom.
Yeah. Beat me to it.
Well, like I said, social media, regardless of whether it's good or bad overall, it obviously helps with the promotional side of the music industry. We often think about what it would have been like to grow up in the 60s, 70s, 80s, so on. But do you think that you would be where you are now without it? How differently would you have done things if you were, say, a 90s band?
Well, I think the reasons people get in a band are a bit different now, because I think, some people in bands, they kind of do it for a look or something. Back then, you just like, when you look at Oasis, they were just complete nutters, and you look at exactly, they had nothing better to do, and you look at all the bands, especially around Manchester, that were coming up, they were just doing it to go out and get fucked up, really.
Yeah.
But now I think people look into it more. There's a lot of opportunities for bands. I mean, back then, you had to have the best of the best music to get seen first. You had to really be lucky to bump into someone like your Tony Wilsons going, your Alan McGee's and stuff going back around then. But as I say, I think there's pros and cons to both. If you're a band in the 90s and a band today, I think there's good sides to.
Yeah, it's very accessible now. You don't need harm.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Like what you're saying, pros and cons. I think it's that easy now to be able to an extent. You can do everything with a laptop now, can't you?
Yeah, and you could have made loads of money back then as well, but now you certainly don't do it for the money.
Yeah, like touching back on social media as well, there's that much there now. You've got to be doing so much more to stand out from the crowd. It's like just being on social media. It's just a case of like it's reading it. I think that's why live music is still the best way to go about doing it, and just going out to these venues that hopefully fucking don't keep closing.
No, they've been bought out now.
Yeah, well, it's in that, but I mean, there's obviously there's going to be more that may or may not close. Going out and hearing the band and hearing the sound you want is better than reading. See tweets all the time, and I think it sounds shit. Oh, it sounds like I'd rather hear the music.
Yeah.
Oh, you can't get a good gauge for it, and then I hear the music, and I'm like, fucking boring. Oh, it's like there's been a lot of good over lockdown. There's been loads of good stuff. But then you start wading through and the stuff, maybe shit's half. Stuff not my taste or my liking. I think live music is and will always be the best way to go about it.
Yeah.
But that's down to the people, that's down to the punter, and that's down to the customer going out and doing it. And it is so accessible to listen on Spotify and listen to like 10 bands in half an hour and be like, nah, I'm not really after them because it didn't really catch me. It's all in the live performance as well.
There's nothing
That's what we try and do. The live performance is something that we work on gig to gig to try and change it up from the people that came to the last one and think, yeah, the songs are still the same. The song, obviously we think they're fucking great, but like the songs are still good. But there's the bits in between, there's the showmanship, there's the intros and the endings that we try and work on, change up a little bit.
So I just want live music to return as soon as possible, really.
Yeah, I can't remember what the question was, but Bring back the venues.
Yeah.
Quite a long answer to that one. What would be your advice to musicians looking to promote their music and burst onto the scene?
I don't know if we burst onto the scene. I think if that's what people think, then that's bloody brilliant.
It's not so much advice you can give us. If you want to do it and you have mates you can do it with. The only thing that we could really say is just fucking do it.
Yeah.
Don't be like me and and
hold me up.
Yeah.
Keep me waiting.
Yeah. Just do it. Just do it. That's literally all you can say about that. Because if you never know what might happen. But as I say, we've not fully burst onto any sort of scene yet. We've done like the small circuit Manchester gigs and stuff in the smaller venues. But I think, if anyone's thinking about picking a guitar up, don't let anything stop you.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
I think the bottom line of it is as well, though, is like you said burst into the scene. We said we haven't. The enjoyment we get from doing it doesn't matter whether we have or we haven't.
Yeah.
And whether we will or we won't.
There's not.
Every time we get off a stage, whether it was to 20 people at Leeds in our first gig.
Or 20,000.
I might have something different to say about that. Yeah. But like the 100 capacity gig that we've done 2 of them, they sold out and thought, that's.
I think there's no better
whether
feeling.
Whether it was or burst,
There's no better feeling than playing live. So that's, if anyone's thinking of doing it, you have to get that feeling. There's just nothing like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, whether we agree or disagree on whether you burst onto the scene, you've been able to get to a position where you are performing live, and for some people that is the dream, just the enjoyment of it. But anyways, it took a year until we saw your first Spotify release through the song Chasing the World. What was the creative process behind this song?
I'd had quite a few of the songs before everyone came together. I think is why I decided that was the time that I wanted to start finding a band. So for that one, and the first Moon was yours, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. Our creative process has changed as we've gone along. That I'd say I probably had like 4 or 5 songs before we got the band together and had the first practice. And it was a lot of, this is the idea, this is what we're working around, and these are sort of like the ideas got in my head. And they've changed since we first played them. And I think they've changed for the same reason our creative process have changed. It's not me like, you need to play it like this, you need to play it like that. So this is how it goes. And then there'll be off now. I think we're all
it was more just because it was all new to us, and it's just total trial and error. None of us knew what we were doing. Yeah. Still, arguably, we probably don't. But it's within regards to making a song and knowing what to play, when to play it. You just leave it to each individual. You go, oh, that sounds good, keep that. And then when we went in the studio to do it, it kind of felt like it was a totally different song to how it was first. But as I said, we didn't really know what we were doing, so it was just, you try this, or I'll try this, and that's that about it.
We learned a lot recording that first one.
Yeah.
Is that what you meant? Is that what you were looking for?
Yeah, definitely. Well, earlier you were saying that people kind of saw similarities between you and Oasis with the first song, and I agree with them.
They think he's a dickhead. That's why I think they get the comparisons.
And I have to say, because of the Oasis similarity, I am a big fan of this song, as I am with all the other songs. But is there anything you would change about this song a year on from its release? Because I was talking last week to the Cobasets, and they did have a couple of things they would change about their first debut single. Do you have anything you would change?
Yeah, definitely. I think as the song, no, but I think recording-wise and recording techniques, absolutely. I think we could have put. I think it just could sound so much bigger. We've definitely. That's not the last time we've ever recorded it. Yeah. We will do it again. It's not going to be for a while, but 100% you'll get recorded again.
I'd like to say no, because I feel like when we play that live, just because it was our first one and because it's been out the longest, everyone knows the words. So everyone that comes to our gigs knows the words. So it's kind of you get that extra buzz from it. So there's nothing I'd really want to. Everything we've changed to how we play it live.
Yeah,
is how is enough for me. Yeah. But yeah,
I think it's just our last 2 songs have been. Each time we've got a new song, it's like a step up from the last one. Not necessarily in how big it sounds or like how good we are or how good we think, but just the production of it and what went into it and us all playing together. I think we all we all gel now. When we were first doing the first few songs, everyone looked at me like I was a madman, absolute madman trying to relay these songs. But as we've gone along with them now, we just sort of gel, and it's been so much easier coming up with them and adding parts to them. But I think
I'd like to. There's nothing about to change.
I digressed again there. To get used. Bring me back in. I would, but that's not because I don't think it's good. I still play. I was playing it in my car on the way, and my granddad burnt a CD with it on a CD 5 times because the car's only got a CD player. I just listened to it full blast. Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Well, it's good that you guys can see the progression of the band already from your first song to your most recent song, and that's obviously a show of your progress. Shortly after your debut single, though, in fact a day later, you performed in Leeds at the Verve Bar. What was that like?
Have you been telling him all this?
But, no,
you've been doing your own work.
He's done his research.
You got back at work then, eh? That was Arthur's birthday. That was our first gig. So yeah, Chase the World came out on the Friday, and we played Leeds Verve Bar on the Saturday, and it was tiny, but it was great because we had loads of our mates come over from like Burnley and some from Manchester.
Dirty Laces come over.
Yeah, a couple of Dirty Laces lads came over, and that was they came to our first one in Halifax. We played with my brother was in the band. But yeah, that Leeds gig I think was the start of what the Cavs is now. That was I would always say that's our first Cavs gig.
For me, with it being just after the release of Chasing the World, it was just a weird day because as we were driving to Leeds, we just had that on repeat, and it was like, oh fucking hell, this is us.
It's the first time.
It was just weird having a. And I had some of my mates messaging me going, "It's fucking weird that you're on Spotify. You know, you just open up and put Elliot on Spotify." But yeah, it's just an exciting feeling having your first thing out there. And I think a worry of mine was when you say to people, "Oh, I'm in a band," they go, "Oh, I bet you are."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Bet you shy. But it was nice to sort of say, people go, "Well, actually, that's quite good. That's quite good." Yeah. And then everyone was videoing it, and some people sing along to it. So you
should have heard how fast we played it though. There's probably a video on Facebook somewhere that someone took, and you wouldn't believe the speed it was played at. I think Adrenaline took us
bit too far. But that stage was tiny because when all three of us were playing guitar, I literally moved that way, I did him.
Yeah.
And moved the other way, I did James. Tiny.
Michael was just sort of thrown in the back.
They're the best ones, the small ones. Yeah.
We got an Airbnb as well, so that went from just playing a gig like we did the last time, sort of like getting there and then getting out. Thought we were in a whole different city then.
Yeah.
We weren't even in Manchester, so it was like
fucking yellow brick road on it.
Yeah. We thought we'd made it on our first gig, handing out badges in Leeds.
Nice.
Obviously, within 2 days, you had released your debut single and performed in Leeds. That must have been quite a big deal at the time. Did it feel like you were really starting to turn up the heat as a band?
I mean, we still say we're not a real band, aren't we?
You
sometimes.
Still say that.
I still say that.
I was in a real band when it was just me.
It definitely felt like, it was going to be something that we definitely, this is the long haul, we're going to go for it sort of thing, keep writing. And it inspired me to start writing more. So I was like, oh, actually, I quite like this. That feeling of going somewhere I've not been, playing a song of mine that's on Spotify, and it's like, it just, with each gig, it drives you. But with that one specifically that you're asking about, it was definite sort of turning point mentally for me, because it made me, put pen to paper a bit more and pick the guitar up more and start writing more. I just think that push of doing it and seeing people enjoying it as well, I think that was pretty.
It was an indoor gig as well. It sounds silly and pretty minor, but our first one being an outdoor gig, it was more of, for me, that was just sort of getting the nerves out of playing in front of a load of people. And it was like an event, it was a charity event, which is really good with loads of bands on. But it was outside, and I think that not took away from it. So when we played inside, that felt like a gig. It was hot, it was sweaty, and there was like people who were shouting, and it was it was loud. But outside, it wasn't very loud. It didn't feel like we were playing in a gig. That Leeds one was definitely the start of it all for me.
Then a couple months later, you performed at the Bullring in Eccles, which this time I saw an interview where you guys mentioned it in your list of favourite venues. I think it was James that said that. Why was it so good?
I think it was. I mean, Eccles is where I'm from. It's just like a small town on the outskirts of Manchester, and it was just so good because I don't think I know the landlord, and he said after we played it, he was like, I've never seen anything like that. It was just full of people. You couldn't move from the back to the front.
Yeah.
And there was no stage, so everyone was sort of on the same level. People like as close to the crowd, that close to me. And it was just because we've done good gigs that had sold, a small, okay amount of tickets, but that was like, and it was near Christmas as well, so it was just the whole mood around it. I think it was just very, I don't know, eclectic. Is that the right word?
Oh,
I'm not very good at words.
I think that one had gone from. We get a lot of friends and family at ours at the minute, but that one was probably the first one where we had friends of friends and friends of friends of friends, and they'd start bringing people. So it wasn't just sort of like Alpha, that Brickworks gig. We got an allocation of 25 tickets and we couldn't sell all of them. And then I think 2 or 3 gigs later, we did that Eccles one and we sold 80 in 2 days, less than 48 hours. So I think we sold 70, and then he allocated 10 more. And then I think on the night, we managed to get a couple more in as well.
It was nice to see as well. That gig was the first time like we saw, a few randoms in there. People just like coming off the street and bought a ticket, which because they thought, walking past, I heard it, I thought, that sounds good. That come in. So I think, family are going to say you're good, even if you are good. It's nice to get that reassurance off people. Your mum's not going to turn around and say, "Oh shit," that, you know what I mean? Yeah. But I think
your mum said she would have, though.
Well, yeah.
His mum said that if we were rubbish, then she would have told us.
Yeah.
She's not said anything yet.
But most people are nice. Yeah. Sorry, mum, that was a joke. But having people you've never met, don't even know who they are, say, "Fucking hell, that was great." Yeah, that was the best thing about it. But it was the whole time of year, and it was still all exciting. Yeah. So that was
We're on a good run of gigs at that time as well. I know we're probably boring, but I think that was our last one before Christmas. Then we didn't play another one for like a month and a half, and we really felt the momentum sort of go. So that Bullring one was sort of like the 4th in 2 weeks.
And we all got really fucking pissed as well, didn't we?
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Manchester's blessed with good venues from the cricket ground to Castleville Bowl and Heaton Park. But what is the dream venue for you guys?
It's only a small one for me, but night and day in Manchester.
Yeah,
that's
the near goal. Near side goal.
Yeah, I think that because it's the most iconic music venue for me. Everyone who's anybody has played night and day.
Yeah.
Even they still do. Johnny Marr played there not that long ago. That's the one for me, and it's a realistic goal for us as well. I'm not saying who knows, we might play a bigger venue one day, but I think that one will always stick in my mind. I say we're not a real band until we played night and day. Yeah. I'd be happy with saying we are when we have.
Castleville Bowl for me would be.
Yeah, that'd be.
I remember saying like a couple of years ago to one of my mates that I'd love to play at Castleville Bowl. Yeah. I'd take a sports slot tomorrow.
Yeah, obviously.
I'd love to play it.
But I'm just, I really hope that coming out of this, that there's enough venues there for us to. Cause I'm sure you've heard about Deaf Institute and Gorilla. Yeah. They've been saved today, though. I knew they'd be bought out, but it is scary thinking, because Deaf Institute would be another amazing one. It's such a cool little place, and I just think that if we were to lose these staples of Manchester, there's like cultural melting pots of where people go. Then it'd be a real shame. But there's so many good venues. I could list loads, but Night and Day is the one that absolutely sticks out.
I want to do a homecoming gig in Burnley at Townley Park. That's like my Heaton Park.
Townley Park.
Yeah, there's probably a couple of thousand people.
I thought you were going to say Turf Moor then.
Oh yeah, Turf Moor. Turf Moor is sick. Sean Dyche is watching. I want to play Turf Moor. That's my dream.
I'll definitely tag Sean Dyche in the comments.
Yes, please.
Joey was in Hooters the other day.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Carry on.
On the topic of venues, I was just about to get on to the fact that we've seen almost the closure of Manchester's Deaf Institute and Gorilla venues due to the pandemic. What do you feel needs to be done to save these venues? Should we expect more funding from the government? Maybe we need more support from artists higher up in the progression ladder.
I definitely think, these multi-millionaire artists who have made all their money back in their day when it was only venues where they'd make the money. I think the amount of money that's in Spotify and streaming services like that, I think they should definitely have a hand to play because they've took a lot of revenue off places like that because not as many people go to gigs anymore because it's too accessible. and they can just sit there and listen to it. But I know there is that, I think it's £1.5 billion from the government, but I don't fucking believe a word of that. I don't know where that money will possibly go to save proper grassroots indie music venues. But yeah, I think the big companies like Spotify and stuff, they definitely have a role to play and won't play it.
Yeah.
So it's down to the people when they reopen to get back out there and going.
Yeah, I think it is a collective thing. I know they need to open back up. Easier said than done. It needs the government funding. It needs people going back to. I think it is a lot of factors. There are people, i.e., the government and the big cats, that should be putting their hands in the pockets and helping out. Like you were saying, that there's a lot of revenue being taken from them, such as like Spotify and Apple Music. I think it's down to everyone else as well. People like us going to, I mean, we're a bit naughty for it sometimes, like not being asked going to gig in a weekend or going to see like a local band, or like everyone's got the part to play. I
think after this, it's going to be a bit of an awakening for people, because as you say, sometimes you be like, oh, shall I go out? Shall I go to that gig?
Yeah.
And you go, oh, no, I'll just sit in instead and do nothing. But I think now it'll be a case of there's a gig on, let's go.
It's a tough one though, because gigs aren't going to, like, we were talking the other day, where we supposed to be playing? The Boulevard, they've had to dock the capacity from 300 to 70 because of social distancing. And you think, that's an all right gig for us, but that was going to be a sick gig at like nearly 300 people if it sold out. And you think, I'd hate to start playing gigs now that weren't what they were going to be. Mm. I don't want to say for the sake, because it's people's livelihoods, it's people's businesses. But you go to a gig for the love of the music and the atmosphere and the being with your mates, and you think, yeah, these booths look all right, where you've got to set up and sit down with your mates. But that's never been a gig. Even when I went to go and see the Searchers with my grandma and granddad, I wasn't sat in a booth, sort of like being on my own and having drinks brought around for me. And a gig's a gig, and the gig needs to be a gig.
When it eventually gets back up and running, the only thing that people can and need to do is fucking go.
Yeah.
That's all I can do.
Yeah.
Well, for anyone listening to this podcast, if your local venue is receiving donations, then I'd strongly encourage anyone who is in the position to do so to go down just a little bit, because, like you said, Elliot, it's a big cultural melting pot of the UK, and we want that to continue.
Yeah, it's massive, and it's not as if it's like it makes a lot of money.
Yeah,
it makes a lot. I mean, I read a stat. It's like a multi-billion-pound industry, the music venue, and I know that's obviously a lot of the bigger artists, but that grassroots section of it, it's still when it's booming, and it will be after this. It does make a lot of money, so it's got to stay. It's got to stay.
Anyways, in 2020, we saw the release of, in my opinion, your best song yet, "Round the Town I Was Born." How did this one come about?
This was another one that I had well before I'd started the band, and it was more of observations that I'd taken from different places. My favourite song at the time when I was writing that was "This Is the One" by the Stone Roses, and I loved. My favourite part was when it all kicked in, and it says "Burn the Town Where I Was Born," and I wanted to call it that, and then I thought, I don't want people from Burnley thinking that I don't like Burnley. So then I thought "Round the Town I Was Born," but it was from various places. It's called "Round the Town I Was Born," but I see it as the listener. Everyone's got parts of their town and people from their town that aren't, they're not good people. They're not the best people. There's reasons why you don't necessarily like where you're from. Doesn't mean I don't like Burnley. I fucking love Burnley. But yeah, there's people you see everywhere. Sort of people on nights out, people during the day. I think it's just a really relatable song, which everyone can take their own sort of message from it, and will get their own memories triggered by different parts of it. So I think that's a good thing about it. It's specific, but not specific at the same time. It was written on like solely personal level, but I'm just your average Joe, and I know for a fact that everyone's got the same stories to tell. I think it was easy for me to write it because it was just everything that I'd seen and things that I'd seen on nights out and people that I'd been around.
There's even better ones coming now, isn't there?
Yeah. So I think there's no like deep underlying meaning behind it. It's just sort of almost sort of like a half dig at some things, some places, some people.
Mm-hmm.
On release of this song, you mentioned that this was initially supposed to be an acoustic song, which we can see in the release of the demo version. But of course, we can hear that this is not the case anymore with the almost 60s or 70s like guitar instrumentals throughout. Is this an example of a song where more than one band member has had an influence on the creation of a song?
Yeah, I think so. So we're going to say mate Luke Deck from Dirty Laces. It's like we're plugging him, innit?
Big up Luke and the Laces.
He recorded that demo with me at college, again, before we'd even started the band. And I'd only intended on it being like that. I would say it was more when we started playing. It was my brother, actually, that I think influenced how it became a bigger song and a heavier song. When we ended the song on the demo, or when I ended the song on the demo, it just sort of like fizzes out sort of into nothing very gently. When we were playing it live with him, like in practices, I don't know why he did it, but he would never slow down when he played it. And he would always go back in hard. And that's when I think we got that ending where it went off.
I think another good thing to say about Round the Town as well, especially, is Chris wrote it on his own and recorded it sort of in college with one person, and then it got passed about to different people, different drummers, and then he brought, he started getting the band together, so getting me in, James in, and as each person comes in to a song we've never heard before, but the person before them knows about it, and you all bring your own things, and it's just, I feel like we have brought our own little bit to each of it, so whatever you thought it was going to be at the start, it was never going to end like that, was it? Because you had each person coming in, giving their 10 pence.
That's the song that's changed the most, and I was more than happy about it. From what I thought it was going to be to what it is now, is obviously tenfold. Yeah.
What are the plans for the Cabs in the future?
Money, fame, big house,
definitely not money.
More guitars.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah. No, we just can't wait. Just before lockdown, we had a couple more songs that are nearly finished now, and it was like, even when we were sat there listening to them, I don't know if it's because we're being biased, but I remember sitting there listening to the song that was half done, thinking, "Fucking hell, that sounds really good." I just can't wait to get more songs out there. I mean, we were saying, we were debating whether to sort of release one during lockdown, but we want to make it a party. We want to have a release gig and stuff like that. So it's going to take a while yet for more stuff to come out. And eventually, obviously, it'll be an EP and stuff and blah, blah, blah. But I think the thing is now for the future is just keep writing songs. That's the most important thing. If you're not constantly writing and coming up with new ideas for your existing songs and change, blah, 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 you're not going to get anywhere, no matter where you want to end up. So I think, the main thing is just writing and then getting back to playing gigs. And once you can get back to playing gigs, you can really start to get the momentum that we did have before the China virus.
One last question then. It can be silly, it can be serious, it can be funny. Why should viewers of this podcast listen to the Cabs?
This face. Don't do that.
Absolutely.
Fucking disgusting.